Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. So this presentation provides an overview of crisis, risk, and emergency management, focusing on key themes such as crisis management, resilience, risk management, emergency planning, and the continuity. It also explores specialized topics including the disaster governance, public health emergencies, and institutional resilience. These learning objectives emphasize analyzing public sector responses and identifying lessons to strengthen institutional preparedness and response mechanisms. Again, good morning everyone. So my name is Aiza Tampal. So let's begin the presentation. The first element in any discussion on crisis management is understanding the risk landscape itself. So our country, the Philippines, is uniquely and profoundly exposed. So as you can see on this slide, our geographic reality is one of both breathtaking beauty and immense peril. So first, we are situated directly on the Pacific Ring of Fire, home to 23 active volcanoes. So this gives a fertile land and geothermal energy. But it also means a constant, centuries-long coexistence with the threat of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Based on the slide, the 23 active volcanoes included the Bulkang Mayon, Taal, and the Pinatubo. So as we experience right now, madalas na po tayong nililindol. And according to my last research, the last eruption of Bulkang Mayon is January 7, 2026. Ibig sabihin, bago lang. So, sa naman po, sa Taal naman is, nagkaroon po ng several minor or short-lived phreatomagnetic eruptions in October and November 2025 with alert level 1. So, ang Canlaon volcano naman po experienced moderately explosive eruption in October 2025, alert level 3 naman po. So, yun po yung mga last eruption po na according to my research. So, ang pangalawa naman is we lie squarely in the Pacific Typhoon Belt, battered by an average of 20 typhoons each year. Ibig sabihin, sa bawat taon ay meron tayong 20 typhoons like Bagyong Marites, mga ganon. So, bringing catastrophic winds, so mga lakas na paghangin, storm surges, at mga pagbaha. This is our core challenge. So, ito yung core challenge natin. So, how do we manage crisis effectively across the 7,641 islands with diverse communities and varying levels of resources? So, paano nga ba? So, to answer this, we establish a formal governance framework. So, ibig sabihin, gumawa ang ating government ng batas, no? The cornerstone of our modern approach. Ito yung RA 10121. So, the Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act of 2010. So, this law marked as paradigm shift. So, before 2010, so bago daw yung 2010, under the old Presidential Decree 1566. So, nung hindi pa nabuo itong RA 10121, is meron na tayong Presidential Decree 1566, which is ang ginagamit ay reactive. It focus on relief goods and infrastructure after a disaster struck. Ibig sabihin ng pagbibigay ng mga relief goods, well known as mga sardinas, either cash assistance or in-kind, no? And mga project ng infrastructure like tulay, mga ganon, hanging bridge, flood control. The RA 10121 transform this. So, ibig sabihin, gi-transform or gi-enhance, no? Gi-amend ni RA 10121. It mandated, so kung si PD 1566 ay reactive, ito naman si RA 10121, siya ay proactive and developmental approach. So, it created the National DRMM Council. So, nagkaroon sila ng council. So, meron na tayong National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council down to the local. No? Meron na tayong Local Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council down to province. WPD, RMC, down na naman to cities and municipalities and so on. So, and ensured funding through mandatory 5% local DRMM funds. So, meron tayong 5%. So, the goal shifted from just responding to disasters to actively reducing the risks that cause them. Yun yung ang lao nakafocus doon. So, however, even with a strong law, a significant structural tension exists in its implementation. This is the tension between the centralization and the localization. So, on one hand, the national government through NDRMC sets policy and coordinates large-scale responses. On the other, local government units, so the LGUs, are the mandated frontline implementers and first responders. So sila, ang LGU, sila yung nangunguna, sila yung frontliner na nakafocus doon sa komunidad. So herein lies the critical gap. So ito yung the critical gap. So there is often mismatch between the developed responsibility to LGUs and their uneven capacity and resources. Ibig sabihin, may kakulangan sa resources yung LGU o kakulangan sa pondo. So this gap can lead to coordination failures, especially during crisis that span multiple jurisdiction. So meron tayong example mamaya. So si Ma'am Perhana yung mag-explain ng mga example ng mga gap or conflicts doon sa crisis, no, risk management. So in summary, our journey in crisis management, so in crisis or management, is defined by navigating severe risk landscape with a modern, proactive law, while continuously grappling with the practical challenge of bridging the gap between national strategy and local execution. So that's all my report. So thank you for listening, and that concludes my overview of the Filipino risk and governance landscape.
This is continuation of report to Ms. Aiz Dampal. I am Farhana Ilyas. The case analysis of Typhoon Yolanda Haiyan on 2013. The crisis catastrophe category 5 with 5M storm surge, the institutional response and the breakdowns. The warning communication failure is the technical terms storm surge not understood to effective community translations. The total system overwhelms is the local capacity destroyed, national logistics and coordination failed. The blame games is the public political dispute, eroded trust, and hampered unified responses. The lesson is the policy frameworks failed without tested protocols, clear communication, and collaborative leaderships. The case analysis of COVID-19 pandemic is the crisis prologue, national public health, and the socio-economic emergency response analysis. The model is the centralized command via an interagency task force, aid, and the militarized lockdown enforcements. The challenge is the strict mobility rules of 38% informal workforce and social aid distribution of bottlenecks. The adaptation is the strategy involved to localize lockdown in PDITR, vaccine rollout, leverage public and private networks. The lesson is the managing conflicts, prolonged crisis required, and balancing health mandate with socio-economic support and adapting learning. Strong foundation of resilience. First is the social capital, deeply embedded by bayanihan spirit and barangay networks for community level response. The second is the scientific capacity, strong agency, pag-asa, FIBOX, and hazard mapping in Project Noah's Legacy. And the third is the involving policy, continuous legal development, show recognition needs for the improvement, propose departments of disaster resilience.
So, good afternoon. My topic is the systematic vulnerabilities and persistent gaps in relation to our topic, crisis risk and emergency management. So, my name is Elmer Bertolaso, forester by profession, connected with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources Office, assigned in DNR Pinro, Isolan, Sultan Kudarat, with the position of forester 2. So, as a review, crisis, risk, and emergency management. So, nag-umpisa ito sa emergency. So, emergency, for example, natural calamity like flooding or typhoon. So, alam natin na mayroong typhoon pero hindi natin alam kung kailan ito, So, yung emergency, pag hindi natin ito mapaghandaan, so, maresulta ito sa crisis. Crisis. Ang crisis, pag hindi ma-solve, ang kasunod dyan ay ang tawag ay disasters, so yun, pag disaster na, ang gagawin ay mag-compute na lang tayo ng losses, damage to properties and environment and then loss of life. Yun lang tatlo na dapat natin computing during disasters, kasi hindi natin napaghandaan yung emergency. So, systemic vulnerabilities define weaknesses built into society, infrastructure, or institutions that make people and systems more exposed to risk. So in disasters, poorly built houses in flood-prone areas, then weak health system during pandemics, inadequate early warning systems. So in effect, when hazard occurs, these weaknesses amplify damage and losses. So persistent gaps means problems that remain unresolved over time, preventing effective disaster management. So in emergencies, lack of coordination between national and local agencies, incomplete data for crisis decision making, insufficient funding for preparedness. So in effect, recurrent problems during an emergency leading to repeated failures in response and recovery. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng systemic vulnerabilities and persistent gaps. So under this, number 1, implementation gap. National policy versus an even local execution. So the implementation gap happens when national policies are strong on paper but do not produce consistent results locally. So why it happens? Capacity differences. Some local governments lack staff, skills, or resources. Number 2, resources constraints. Policies are issued without enough budget or support. Number 3, decentralization challenges. Local priorities and autonomy create uneven application. Number 4, weak coordination, poor communication between national and local agencies. Number 5, politics and leadership. Local leaders, priorities or corruption affect execution. Number 6, poor monitoring, no proper tracking or accountability. So in effect, unequal public service delivery. Then regional development gaps. Policies fail to achieve national goals. So in short, good national plans plus weak local execution equals implementation gap. So yun ang ibig sabihin ng implementation gap. So mayroong na yung national policies pero hindi na implement ng maayos ng local communities. Instead yung local communities nag-require sa mga paaralan, mga offices na mag-earthquake drill pero hindi natin ginagawa, no? Maraming mga provided na mga ayuda pero delayed distribution. So yun ang gap ng national policy gap, implementation gap ng national policy versus an even local execution. So number 2, the recycling cycle. What it is? The repeated process of rebuilding communities after disaster, often in the same high-risk areas. Alam na natin yan, rebuilding communities after disaster. Doon pa rin tayo nagbahay kahit delikado na lugar. So, why build back better fails? Poverty, people return to unsafe areas dahil sa kahirapan, no? Informality, no land titles or secure housing. So, karamihan dyan is mga informal settler, wala silang mga lupa. Informal settler, yung tinatawag natin mga squatters. Number 3, short political cycles. Focus on quick rebuilding, not long-term safety. Mag-focus lang tayo sa madali, pero hindi pang matagalan. So, result, communities remain vulnerable. Then, disaster cause repeated damage. So, in short, disaster, rebuilding quickly, same risky location, risk, disaster again. So, yun ang resulta ng the reconstruction cycle. So, number 3, yung tinatawag na fragmented data. Each agency has its own data. Katulad ng Pag-asa, they focus on weather condition. So, DSWD, they focus collect data on victims, sa mga family. DPWH focus on damages sa roads, yung mga buildings, paaralan, yung mga bridges, So, DOH focus on victims, Nung nandoon na hospitals. So, data is not integrated. Decision makers see an incomplete crisis pictures. So, result is slow, uncoordinated response. So, yun ang ibig sabihin ng fragmented data. So, number 4, itong reactive budgeting. So, reactive budgeting is when the government allocates funds only after disaster or crisis happens instead of preparing in advance. So, yun, hindi sila nag-allocate in advance para sa disaster. So, nag-allocate lang sila ng funds during and after disasters. So, hindi siya proactive, Reactive budgeting. Ang tawag dyan ay reactive budgeting. So, money is released in response, not in anticipation. Why it's a problem? So, number one, delayed emergency action. Little funding for preparedness and prevention. Maliit lang daw yung funding para sa preparedness rather than prevention. So, malaki yung budget para sa yung disaster. Higher cost in the long run. So, repeated damage and losses. Pabalik-balik lang. No, wala siyang mitigation. So, simple example. No budget for flood control. So, tingin natin dati walang budget for flood control pero mayroon pala. Kaso lang di pang kurakot, no? Kurakot, corruption. So, ang result, ghost project. So, maraming biktima during sa pagbaha. Dahil mayroon ta sanang flood control pero hindi na ayos pag-implement. So, flood happens. Emergency funds are rushed. Same flooding happens again in the next year. So, ganun pa rin. Pabalik-balik. So, in short, disaster first, budget later, then repeat. So, yun ang reactive budgeting. So, dito tayo sa strategic recommendations. No? So, number one, institutionalized reform. So, expedite the creation of cabinet level. So, magkaroon ng Department of Disaster Resilience. Pero, mayroon naman tayong mga PDRMO, yung mga CDRMO, pero very important na magkaroon ng cabinet, no? Department of Disaster Resilience. Ang purpose, kasi paiba-iba yung mga data natin makuha, kailangan ma-unify yung policy, ensure sustainable, focus beyond politics cycle, and oversees the full DRRM cycle. Number two, empower local action, budget the local capacity gap systemically. Guaranteed and timely release of LDRRM funds. Standardized competency training for LDRRMOs. Pre-negotiated contracts for critical logistics, that is transport telecommunications. Number three, mainstream risk governance. Enforce risk-informed development. Mandate integration of multi-hazard risk assessment into all land use plans. So, yung sinasabi ko na sa LUP, no? Community Land Use Planning, nandyan yung zoning ordinance. Pag sinasabing no build zone, so hindi na tayo magbahay doon sa mga hazard areas, no? Para hindi na tayo mabiktima sa susunod na disasters. So, strengthen regulation to prevent settlement in high-risk areas. Audit infrastructure projects for climate resilience. So, number four, integrate systems and learning. Build a national crisis information platforms. So, interoperable system linking DOST, DILG, DSWD, DOH for real-time situational awareness. Then create a Philippine Crisis Learning Commission, independent body to conduct mandatory, transparent after-action reviews linked to policy change. So, in conclusion, the path to resilience. Number one, resilience is an exercise in adaptive governance, not just emergency response. Progress exists in policy and community strength, but systematic vulnerabilities persist. The increasing climate risk demands a decisive shift from cyclical recovery to institutionalized risk governance as a core development principle. Requires sustained political will, strategic investment, and multi-sector commitment. So, that's all my report. Thank you for listening. Good afternoon once again.